food and feeding our neighbors was the theme of JUSTembrace this year. We've always focused on celebrating through food, using food as a way to take our celebrations up a notch. This year, however, we stepped in the gap for the first 6 months and helped supplement the hole that had developed when one of the soup kitchens shut down. After I returned from my 3 months in Pennsylvania with my family, immediately got back to cooking for our neighbors and had a couple chilly days that were really well received, and then had 2 massive feast days. And these feast days were meals where we cooked and prepared for 200 to 250 people each time. The first time I think I made 5 turkeys. The second time I made 7 turkeys. We had members of our community who took on the task of making the green bean casserole and the mashed potatoes and the carrots and putting together the appetizers. These feasts were indeed feasts. We had cheese and crackers and pickles and olives and applesauce and cranberry relish and dessert. And those were just the extras. We also, for the meal, had macaroni and cheese and corn pudding and stuffing and homemade gravy. We had about 90% of what we would normally do at one of our epic feasts in our home, put together and packaged in individual containers for our neighbors. It was so encouraging to see our neighbors lining up outside of our home and down the street and really showing up with such excitement and trust and gratitude. It did not feel like a handout or a soup kitchen. It really felt like what we had hoped it would be, which was an extension of our holiday feasting, just repackaged for a pandemic in a way that could be safe. It was very stressful in our home and in the yard. We did everything we could to keep our hosts safe and to make sure that everyone involved felt confident that they were safe and cared for and respected, that their time supporting this event would not put them in jeopardy. JUSTembrace has always taken risks. That's a huge part of who we are and what we do. And the risks that we take are often intended to help society maybe not take their fear so seriously. So to try to host an event during a pandemic was a very different experience because we had to take risks very seriously. The risk of infection during a pandemic was not something that we could minimize or dismiss or cast aside because the work we were doing was more important than the risk. And that was just a very humbling experience for me because I have not been in that frame of mind for decades. One of the best parts of both holiday feasts was being able to send close to 100 of these feast packets to the nursing home. For the days and weeks leading up to feasts, I received phone call after phone call after phone call from people in the nursing home reserving a feast to be sent to them. One day, 2 nurses showed up at my door with handwritten lists that they had gone around their floor and taken names and room numbers of people in their care who would like one of these feasts. It was so encouraging to see the nursing home staff rally around us and support us and champion us by doing so much to help ensure that the members of their community were able to share in this tradition. I firmly believe that was connected to the several times during the year that we reached out to the nursing home and supported the staff through pastries and coffee from Starbucks. Even though I stopped working for Starbucks, JUSTembrace was able to partner with Starbucks twice this year. And I see a future for JUSTembrace and our local Starbucks moving forward, even if I never return as a barista. When we ended 2019, we really felt like JUSTembrace was stepping into the end of an era. We didn't see a future for us in this house and felt like when our lease was up this coming June that we would be transitioning and that this year of 2020 would be spent discerning and searching for our new home. We thought that it was likely going to be a new city and began the hard work of preparing to say goodbye. One thing that's happened in 2020 is encourage us to do what we can to stay in Chicago if we can. That will mean working with a difficult situation with our landlord. That will mean increased rent. That will mean expenses that traditionally shouldn't be taken on by renters. But what makes all of those difficult things able to be lived through and navigated is a solid team of financial supporters and people here on the ground living in the community and serving each other and building relationships. And that's what 2020 has shown me, is that JUSTembrace has an incredible network of faithful, consistent financial partners, but we also have loads of people willing to give, willing to be generous, willing to financially invest in the needs and the vision of JUSTembrace when asked. We raised over $10,000 in 2020 on just Facebook fundraisers. That is a tremendous amount of money for an organization our size. In addition, we have seen so many members of our community really rally to the needs that this year has brought us. When the pandemic started, I immediately got to work innovating ways of connecting to our greater neighborhood and just staying present in the neighborhood. And members of our intimate faith family took it upon themselves to check in with each other consistently to make sure that everybody was faring okay in those early days. And that has become just a natural part of the rhythms of their lives now. Everyone's looking after each other and checking in with each other and continuing to invest and build the relationships that have been started and cultivated in this home previously. That kind of intimacy is hard to build when you're only gathering as a group once a week for prayer and Bible study. So to take those relationships and have consistent phone calls and sporadic safe meetups happening has really developed a sense of community and family that really sped up the kind of work that's done here in our home. That is one of the most significant things that we are taking into the post-pandemic world. So as we look to a new year, we are no longer looking to move and to relocate, though we are prepared to deal with that if it comes. But we are determined to keep Chicago our home if it is possible and for as long as it is possible. We've celebrated entering into our 10th year this year, and in July we will have completed 10 years in this house on this block. 10 years is a long time to invest in a community. While we are ready to start over if we need to, finding a way to continue to stay and work and build on what God has done here is ideally what our future will hold. One of the things that really helped us discern the future vision for JUSTembrace and to kind of revisit the idea of leaving this city was the way that the racial justice movement in this country picked up momentum this summer. JUSTembrace has a lot to continue to learn and many ways to grow and change in the way that we function as it relates to social justice in our community. But one thing we want to avoid is taking for granted what we have here in Uptown. Though we will keep our Black Lives Matter sign hanging on the side of the house, there is long-term work to be done. A couple of book groups with several of our partners this summer are not the end all. Continuing to stay and root ourselves and posture ourselves to listen and to learn and to be ready to be changed. That's the work. We have a community, we have a neighborhood where we can do that work. And our hope is that the months and years to come will provide opportunities for us to continue to live into the kingdom of God on earth. When the pandemic started, we had a new opportunity to use the fence in kind of an extension of this thing that we've always done. And we began to tie white on the fence to signify every loss in Chicago. We called this the grief fence, and we put Sharpie markers on the fence so that passersby could write the names of loved ones that they had lost or write prayers or thoughts. This grief fence has been a daily reminder of the significant impact that COVID has had on just this one community. We have had the honor of having that become a story on 2 different news sources this year, and are thankful for the opportunity to remind our communities and extended communities how critical the work of grief and lamenting are in order for us to heal as individuals and as communities. I believe that the years ahead, the world will need prophets to stand up and remind us that we are deeply wounded from this experience and that we need to continue to find ways to tap into our grief, to tap into our loss, to lament, to cry, to acknowledge the deep impact that we have suffered together as a community and as individuals and as families during this year. 2020 was supposed to be the year that I did the bulk of the work on my dissertation for completing my doctorate. In April, when I finished my coursework, the pandemic had really gained momentum, and it became clear that a lot of innovation was needed to continue to do the work of JUSTembrace in this community. So I paused work on my dissertation and took that opportunity and that natural break to really invest fully in being present, in being available to innovate whatever needed to happen. So as we start a new year, Scout and I will be returning to Pennsylvania for the foreseeable future to continue to help my family through my mother's chemo treatments and eventual surgery. During that time, I hope to begin work on my dissertation and try to refocus and open up that opportunity again and try to make 2021 the year that I really buckle down and try to complete that. I'm thankful for the opportunity to really hold things lightly. There's a lot of ways that this past year has shaken us all up, and hiking became a very unexpected coping mechanism. I am incredibly grateful that Scout is not just a wonderful adventure partner, but she is a motivating adventure partner. I know that a lot of people are eager to start a new year, and while I understand the sentiment, I would suggest that 2021 is actually going to be a very difficult year for all of us. If we hope to grow stronger and healthier as a society, then the coming months will be months of grieving, lamenting, and really reckoning with all that has happened around us and inside of us during the last year. Many of us have been surviving, coping the best we can with the chaos around. As chaos begins to subside in this new year, my hope is that we can take the time necessary to do the work and the inventory and the reflection necessary to be people in this world who can truly bring hope and restoration after so much has been lost. I will be in Pennsylvania for the next couple of months, and Lori and Kevin will continue to hold the fort down in Chicago. They did an incredible job while I was gone the first time, and it was so fun to work with them while I was here. Lori and Kevin are wonderful stewards of the mission and vision of JUSTembrace, and I look forward to coming back in the spring to the fruits of their labor. Looking ahead into the new year, one of the things that I anticipate us doing is holding a massive party for our nursing home residents when they are finally released after what will probably be over a year on lockdown. I know that all of us have suffered greatly during this pandemic, but it has been a real gift of perspective to live in such proximity to neighbors who truly cannot go outside, who are suffering in ways that most of us can't even begin to imagine. I am excited for the opportunity to celebrate when they are released and we can all be together again. Down. So much better. As we end this year and head into a new one, on behalf of JUSTembrace, I want to say a great big thank you to those who have kept us financially stable, for those who have kept us emotionally stable, to the 60 plus financial partners, to the hundreds of extended family members around the country and the world who support our work, who encourage us. Thank you for choosing to support and encourage JUSTembrace this year. It has been a year with so many needs, with so many people and organizations deserving of help and support. I consider it an extreme honor to be part of an organization that has such an incredible network of supporters and friends. Happy New Year. May it be one of reflection and transformation.